Does it seem like every time you go out to check your worm bin, all the worms are crawling up the sides or on top of your lid? Well, we might have the answers for you. The first thing I would check is temperature. And you can buy yourself a compost temperature gauge online for pretty cheap, probably somewhere around 15 to 20 bucks. So you just stick this into the dirt, let it sit for a minute or two, and then see what the temperature is. And you want the temperature of your bin to be somewhere between about 60 and 80 degrees. Now, if your temperature is dropping below 60 degrees, then the worms aren't really going to be trying to escape. You're just going to have to worry about them potentially dying if it starts getting closer to freezing temperatures. Now, if it starts getting above 80, especially near the 90 to 100 degree range, that's when the worms are going to start trying to escape to find a cooler home. Another reason your worms could be escaping is pH levels, and that has to do more with the food that you're giving them. There are certain foods that you want to try to avoid when you're feeding your worms, and that mainly includes very acidic foods like lemons or limes or orange peels. Another thing to keep in mind is coffee grounds. If you got a big bin, a few coffee grounds here and there aren't going to be a big deal. But if you have a smaller bin and half of that is coffee grounds at this point, then you might have a pH problem. Staying on the same subject of food, you might also be feeding your worms too much. And whenever you feed them too much and that food sits in the bin too long, it can start rotting and causing a really bad smell in the worm bin, which is also going to make your worms want to find a new home. Another thing to watch for is moisture level. If you start getting your bin too dry, then your worms are going to try to find somewhere where there is water. Now, overwatering them isn't really going to cause your worms to try to escape. The only reason they would in that situation is maybe you've put a whole bunch of cardboard into your worm bin and it's starting to clump up from all of the water that you've added, or maybe it's even starting to pool up in the bottom. That would really be the only reason your worms would try to escape due to water levels. So the main reason I think most people have such a problem with their worms constantly trying to escape their bins is a lack of oxygen. And most people like to keep their worms in a tote or a bucket and they put a lid on it, but they don't punch that many holes, or just they punch really small holes in the lid or around the top of the bin. Well, this just might not be enough in order to get the oxygen that they need inside the tote. So I'll also give you one more tip before I go. Worms do not like light. Whenever you have a light on them, they try to go down deeper into the dirt to avoid it. What we do to help keep the worms from trying to escape for whatever reason is we keep a piece of plastic on top. This blocks out the light, but then if they were to try to escape up the sides, then they would see the light and go back underneath the plastic. If you guys found this video to be helpful, be sure and hit the like button. And if you have any other questions about your worms or worm bin, leave a comment down below and we'll try and get them answered as best we can. See you guys next time.